listening to the NFL Draft Bible Podcast Network, part of Sports Illustrated, giving you daily NFL Draft, Dynasty, and Devy Fantasy Football podcasts.
Class is in session. Welcome into the Draft Seminar presented by Sports Illustrated's NFL Draft Bible Podcast Network. I am your host, Matt Hicks, the FF Educator, joined as always by John Lobb, the Gridiron Scholar. And on this episode, we are talking about Devonta Smith, a highly controversial prospect. So I'm excited to dig into it.
Oh, so am I. And Matt, I still get giddy thinking about the talent that's walked through the door at Alabama over the last decade. And I enjoyed rewatching the film of Devonta Smith over the past week. And I really think we're not giving him enough credit for the incredible resume he put together this season. It is really in the top 5 wide receivers in the history of this amazing game. In 2020, he was the Heisman Trophy winner, and he was only the 4th wide receiver in the history of this game to capture the award. Now, I'm not old enough to have watched Johnny Rodgers, but I've seen clips and I read about him. So I'm not that old, folks. But I am old enough to remember Tim Brown and Desmond Howard at Notre Dame and at Michigan. And Devonta Smith was the 4th wide receiver to capture this award. Not only that, he was the AP Player of the Year. And the AP's been giving it out for, I think, 100 years. And he's the first receiver to get the award. He had the Paul Hornung Award, first team All-American, the Biletnikoff Award, and he was the team captain. And Matt, watching him run routes, it's a thing of beauty. It's artistry in motion. When I watch Devonta Smith, it reminds me of basketball in the 80s with the Los Angeles Lakers. He is just such a great route runner, quick twitch athlete, superior at his job. I mean, he's just unbelievable to watch. And we were waxing poetically about Jamar Chase 2 years ago, and Devonta Smith broke his single season receiving records. 1,850 yards and 23 touchdowns. Now, one caveat. If Jaylen Waddle doesn't get hurt, I don't know if Smith breaks the records. Because they just really, if you watch this Alabama team, Matt, they just started funneling the ball to Devonta Smith. Because they were young at wide receiver. They have some nice prospects coming out. But they did not have the experience of Devonta Smith. But when he leaves Alabama, he's done now, when he left, he held the Alabama and the SEC mark, for career touchdowns with 46 and receiving yards with 3,965. He established a Crimson Tide record with 5 200-yard receiving games, 235 career catches, and he logged 1,300-yard outings. 2019, Matt, you had mentioned it before. He would have probably been a first-round pick. At worst, the second-round pick if he came out. He decided to come back to campus because in 2019, he was second-team All-American and AP first-team All-SC with Jamar Chase. In 2017, he played in every game as a true freshman, and he secured the game-winning touchdown against Georgia in the national championship game. And in high school, this young man's been on the radar for a long time. He was a 5-star prospect out of Louisiana and number 3 wideout in the nation. And put his career in context. When he arrived on that campus and he looks around the locker room, Devonta Smith has been competing with Jerry Jeudy, Henry Ruggs, and Jaylen Waddle. We know Ruggs and Jeudy were already first-round picks. We're going to break down Waddle soon. He's probably a first-round pick. And Devonta Smith. Matt, what a great career he had. What does your film say when you watched him run?
I have Devonta Smith projected as a league winner for fantasy football purposes. And John, you talked about the speed. I love his downfield acceleration. Once he starts getting downfield and stretching that field, it's an absolute game over for the defensive backs, but he also gets off the line of scrimmage very quickly. I give it an 87. His route running ability, John, is absolutely fantastic. And as I'm looking at my notes here, it takes up half the page with just the notes that I have from his route running ability. But one of the things I'll point out, we talk about his size a lot. That doesn't stop him. Him being undersized does not stop him from getting off of press coverage in the SEC. Now, the SEC is one of the only conferences where you can truly judge a wide receiver's release, because most conferences, they won't actually press you. And Devonta Smith, he wins with his first step very consistently. His footwork maintains throughout his route running ability. It's very clean. It's very sharp. He has good contact balance, and he is physical at the catch point, despite, like I said, being a little bit undersized. Now, his yards after catch ability is a big perk as well. Give him an 85 there. He's comfortable running with the ball in his hands. He is elusive. He breaks defenders in space, and he can take any catch to the house at any moment, and that is a big upside skill to have. And of course, John, the athleticism. He has great vertical ability. He's smooth. He's fluid. He's efficient in space just as much as he is elusive in space. But I think I've ranted enough. Let's go ahead and look at the tape.
Let's watch an artist at work.
All right, here we go. As always, provided by Brandon Lejeune, Devy Deep Dive on YouTube and Twitter. And you could see right off the bat here, he wins off the line of scrimmage against Ohio State. And this next one's going to come up here closer to the goal line, and we're going to see his ability to work in space. Nobody's beating him to the edge.
Nobody's beating him to the
And again here, coming off into the flat, in number 7 here, wins the angle. He beats Devonta Smith with that angle, but the speed, it just doesn't even matter. So he speeds up even in short space near the end zone. And look at him work through traffic there in the back of the end zone against Kentucky to bring in the touchdown.
Yeah, he was not the first option, but he kept working and working for his quarterback. And that was a nice play too right there against Ohio State.
Great body control along the sideline. Back of the end zone, Johnny goes up and gets the ball.
I love that catch, Matt. It's incredible.
A fantastic athleticism. You know, we talk a lot. Sometimes we want to ding Alabama wide receivers for, having a system or a quarterback play. But you could see here that clearly Devonta Smith is making it happen himself.
Look, he just burned. He had a good, maybe 1.5 yards of separation against the Ohio State cornerback? I mean, he was blown away. Ohio State corners, man. These are NFL prospects.
One thing, John, as you're watching his tape, and it's hard to quantify, but I talk about it with Devonta Smith a lot, he just makes the game look easy. And he's doing incredible things, and it looks effortless. I mean, look at it. He catches that ball with 6 yards of separation there. I mean, it's incredible. And there it is. And look at, it's not just, he's actually not getting thrown open that well, but he's creating that yards while the ball is in the air. It's fantastic.
Yes, we'll talk about his size and stuff, but man, as far as a route running speedster, it's an artist out there. I've enjoyed watching his film as much as anyone over the past 8 years, Matt.
And talk to me, John, about his production and how it fits into what you're looking for an NFL draft prospect.
When we look at the numbers, they're off the charts, Matt. Career receptions, 235, 3,965 yards, 16.9 yards per reception. I mean, that's just phenomenal in the SEC. And we saw him there. He's burning SEC cornerbacks and safeties, including LSU. He burned Ohio State, who we know are loaded in the secondary. So he's doing it against the highest level of competition possible. Look at that, 47 career touchdowns, off the charts numbers. Matt, we mentioned this when we previewed the Senior Bowl. 80% catch rate, 80%. I mean, the hands are unbelievable. Also, what I do like about him, we didn't see a lot of clips. I would say he's not as dominant in traffic as Marshall, but he's not afraid to go in the middle and catch it in traffic. He just doesn't have the size that Marshall has, but he's willing to be challenged. Look at that, 40% team aerial dominator. I don't think it would have been that big with Jalen Waddle. The first thing that everyone's worried about, Matt, and we spoke about this the other night, he's listed at 6'1", 175. I've never heard of a person not getting weighed at the Senior Bowl. He wouldn't go on the scale. What is he? But I've now come to this conclusion. My model loves everything about him except for the size concern. And what any model does, they're not great at identifying outliers. In general, a model will not identify an outlier. I think Devonta Smith is an outlier. No matter what he comes in with at weight. He's a quick twitch athlete, superior route running. We didn't even see his kick or punt returns. He's dynamic in the open field. I think his ceiling is T.Y. Hilton at his peak. I don't think he can ever be that, the Julio Jones type. But I think he's better than Calvin Ridley with T.Y. Hilton upside, as long as he can stay healthy. I've come around. He's an outlier. If you're going to say he can't do it because of his size, he's already done it because of his size at the highest level in the SEC. He's going to be a very good pro.
All right, there you have it. Thanks for listening to this episode of the Draft Seminar presented by Sports Illustrated's NFL Draft Bible Podcast Network. If you enjoyed this episode, please give it a thumbs up if you're watching on YouTube, and make sure you're subscribed if you're listening on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast provider. And as always,